It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is Monday, March 24th. This is the C block, which means we start at about 7:40 or so. Okay, John, the James Carville guy just keeps giving more great stuff. I don't want your opinion on this, okay? This was...
And he apologized. I thought of you this weekend because he demanded that the Dems apologize to rural voters, right?
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I saw the headline and thought of you. He looked old and wizened, like curled up in a chair, and I was like, Brad's going to love this story.
Why? Why would you say that? Because I look just like him? I'm old and...
No, but because he was doing his Carville thing, looking like a serpent, and he was just sitting in a chair, and the headline was, Carville says Dems should apologize for insulting rural voters. And I was like, oh, Brad's all over this.
Okay, his quote was, the stupidity of we've got to be the most progressive, self-righteous, moralistic people in the world, he said, describing his impression of the party's perspective. And, people who live in the rural area just know fat, lazy, and stupid, which is decidedly not true. James Carville, the thing that amazes me about James Carville is he's the one that one of my favorite quotes was, he says, the reason the Democrats lost because they talked like NPR hosts. Remember we talked about that? He says,
yeah, they do, which is true.
The Democrats need to stop talking like NPR people. Come on, you're a man of the people. You know how the pulse of the state of Missouri. The majority of the people, I shouldn't say the majority, but there are a lot of people in Missouri who used to be out in the boondocks, who used to be Democratic, who are now Republican. Look what's going on in Franklin County. Franklin County used to be more Democratic than it is right now because a lot of the guys, a lot of the men who live in Franklin County, and essentially what they call the collar counties, Franklin County, Jefferson County, and back in the day, St. Charles County, they were union guys who wanted to, they didn't want to live in the city. They were craftspeople. They were carpenters, electricians, plumbers, and things like that. But they didn't want to live in the city. They wanted to have a little space out in the country, stuff like that. And they drove their pickup trucks back into the city every day to do their job. But then at night, they'd go back into the collar counties, Jefferson County, Franklin County, St. Charles County, and they were Democrats. Well, they're not Democrats anymore. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, that's been part of the big shift in the last 25, some would say 30 years in Missouri. You're right, Brad.
So how could the Democrats miss this?
Because here's the thing. If you go to a Democrat rally, so if you go to an anti-Elon Musk Tesla rally, and you look around the crowd, the people don't look like James Carville. If you see a white man, he's probably gay. He's probably carrying a rainbow flag. The people that are protesting are young. They're in their 20s. They identify as some sort of BIPOC or some sort of LGBTQ alphabet soup. They don't look like James Carville. So when they hear James Carville giving advice, they say, oh, that's cute. You won a campaign in 1992. I wasn't even born then. Get out of here. They don't want to hear what Carville has to say.
Don't you think he's right, though?
It doesn't matter if I think he's right, because the people that actually run for office as Democrats are young, multicultural progressives. And they don't want to hear a guy that looks like James Carville telling them how to win. Thanks, James. You've done such a great job for Democrats over the last few years, haven't you? You gave great advice to, I don't know, Kamala Harris or Senate Democrats. If I'm the Cori Bushes of the world, I look at, maybe that's a bad example. If I'm an AOC of the world, I look at James Carville and say, gee, James, for all your time in the Democratic Party, we currently have lost the White House, the Senate, the House. Ooh, you won with Bill Clinton twice. Big deal. Get out of here. The future looks like me now. The future looks like AOC. Get out of here with your old man eyebrows and your gaunt face. Go sit in a chair and entertain the Brad Hildebrands of the world who'll say, oh, clap, clap. It's a Democrat making sense. Isn't he great? AOC doesn't care if Carville's out there saying this stuff. She's the future of the party. James Carville is a fossil who will be in the ground before long. Why should anybody listen to him?
But I know to a certain extent you're being facetious on that. But don't you think that after the 2024 election, that was a wake-up call for the Democrats?
No, because what are you going to do? Be Republican light? Are you going to be, well, we're sort of like Trump and we kind of want to change government? No, you're going to go to the people that scream the loudest, who actually show up at anti-Trump rallies in St. Louis City, because they're the ones that are the committee people. They're the ones that knock on doors and get you elected. They're the ones that get on, well, they don't get on Facebook because they have a life, but they're the ones that get on TikTok and Twitter and complain about elected officials. So you play to your base. You don't play to the fossils of the world like James Carville.
Okay, I see. You and I disagree.
Now, you like the James Carvilles of the world because you're sentimental about the Clinton years and you think he makes sense. And when he criticizes Democrats, you like to hear a Democrat criticize a Democrat.
No,
but if you're a 25-year-old woman at Wash U getting her postdoc, you don't care what James Carville has to say. You're watching AOC on TikTok give updates 3 times a day.
But the problem with that is, John, that I think what you just said is sort of the root of the problem is that that's not everybody. That's a small minority of the people.
Yeah, true. That's true.
It's, you know, a dwindling minority, because what are all the colleges facing? You know, read the headlines. You and I talked about this last week about SIUE getting rid of their physics degree, and all the different colleges. Fontbonne closing down, Webster having problems. Why? Because a lot of people aren't going to college, and more importantly, of the genders, the sexes, whatever, men aren't going to college anymore. Matter of fact, there was a day when you go back 30, 40, 50 years ago, there were more women on campus than men. It's the exact opposite. I've heard statistics that in some colleges right now, it's 70% women, 30% men. Because you know why? The men are still all sitting down in their basements at their mom and dad's house playing video games and stuff like that. And they feel disenfranchised from the world because they don't identify with the AOCs. They don't identify with the people with the rainbow flags and stuff like that. And I think, if anything, Trump has sort of rallied those people and say, hey, look, you're the people that really made this country. You're the people that, that work hard, and you're the people that are, the honest American people that really don't want to have a handout from the government. You want the government to take care of business. You want the government to protect you. See, the interesting thing about this is I'm always fascinated by the fact that I've heard people call Trump a warmonger. He's the exact opposite of that. Go back to his 4 years in office. There were no major wars. There was no problem in any of the areas around. Well, sure, there were skirmishes in West Africa and places like that. But did Hamas attack the Israelis? No. Did Putin attack Ukraine? No. And what's Trump trying to do? And I'll give him credit for this. He talked about this during his campaign, that he said he could fix the Ukraine war in 24 hours, his first 24 hours. Well, obviously that's long gone, but he's actually working this, and that was one of the things that always frustrated me about Biden. Instead of him sitting on the beach in Rehoboth or wherever he was at, couldn't he have been on the phone with Putin going like, hey, Vladimir, knock this off. Come on. He
could have.
But did he? No. But see, John, you make fun of me all the time about stuff like this. I like people that get things done, and what bothers me about Trump is when I look at Facebook posts, and I agree with these people, and they say, Donald Trump just cost the American taxpayers $4 million because that's what it costs for the security detail for him to go play golf. I agree with that. If you're going to be the president, I said this about Biden, I'll say it about Trump again. Do the damn job. Stay in the damn White House. Sit there every single day, unless you're on the plane going to, take care of business someplace. Do the job, because if you asked 100 American citizens, if you randomly polled 100 American citizens and you said to them, hey, you can live in the White House for the next year, and you could have, all the Secret Service protection, and you could have all the food you want any time of the day or night. There's a chef on duty, and you could have all this kind of stuff, and you got Air Force One at your disposal, and you got, the helicopter at your disposal, all that kind of stuff. Would you ever want to go lay on the beach in Rehoboth or go play golf? And you know what 99 of those people would say? Hell no. Give me that White House gig for a year. You couldn't pry me out of the White House. You know what I'm saying, John?
Do you think Trump plays golf alone?
No, he doesn't. I understand what
you're saying. Okay, so does he have, for example, if he's out on the golf course with Eric Schmidt, do you think they're talking about the weather? Or do you think he's getting Eric Schmidt's opinion on Boeing and the F-47?
I understand 100% what you're saying, but that conversation could happen in any room in the White House. It could happen in the Oval Office. It could happen.
So he definitely should not go play golf, have fun, show the cameras, hey, I'm here with a leading U.S. senator. Hey, I'm here with a world leader. I'm old enough to remember a couple months ago when you talked about President Trump cutting a deal while he was playing golf. Remind me how that went, Brad.
But see, my point being is
that he could do that while sitting in an office and whatever.
Yes.
That would be like me saying, Brad, why do you go to the Weldon? Why do you go to the Connellville Weldon Spring Chamber of Commerce? You could spend 2 hours not selling advertisement, sitting at your desk. Why go there and spend 2 hours not selling ads?
The difference is I don't cost the taxpayers any money to go anywhere because I have no security detail. I have no phalanx of Secret Service agents. I don't have, a aircraft that burns, $10,000 a minute in fuel
because you're making a virtue out of necessity. You don't have access to those things, so you don't use them. So you're more virtuous because you're not spending taxpayer money.
I'm saying...
And if you had it, you totally wouldn't go out and play golf. You would sit in the White House and do work all day.
I'm saying the hypocrisy of trying to cut the budget. And all you have to do, John, I know you don't look on Facebook. All you have to do is look on other posts on Facebook saying, okay, here's Trump who's trying to cut the budget, and yet he just cost the taxpayers $4 million by going to play golf at his golf course.
And do you think that person that posts that voted for Donald Trump?
No,
no, they didn't, and they won't, and they don't matter. And the people that like Trump love him. And if you voted, you would have voted for Donald Trump. I know your whole thing of why you didn't vote, but he's not going to lose votes by being out on the golf course and doing these type of things. Your point is that it's hypocritical because every time he plays golf, it costs $4 million. Point taken.
John, have you ever run a business before?
No, not like you, Brad.
Okay. I have to tell you that. And it's funny, it's not just me. I talk to other business owners as well. And you get in your mind of okay, you see somebody do something, you think, oh my, I did that one. It cost me $10,000 to do that. And that was a mistake. You look at, how other people are spending money. And I've seen it time and time again. I've owned this station for 27 years now. And everybody along the path, everybody's telling me, oh, you're going to go out of business any day. Okay. I have had clients who have, Bill Eighel's an example. I mean, here's a guy who's had 2 different careers already. When I first met Bill Eigel, he was running St. Louis Skylights. Now he's whatever he is now. Okay, my point being is that what the old stupid saying, slow and steady wins the race. The idea being is that when you run a business and you see what it costs you when you have to pay for each individual thing, for a tax, for a license plate, for a new transmitter, whatever it is, whatever your business is, a new piece of equipment, a new John Deere, combine or a Caterpillar D9 bulldozer, stuff like that, you realize that there's consequences to every single penny that you spend. But when our lawmakers get in business, and once again, you go down to Jefferson City, you look at, wow, what a fancy building this is. Wow, look at this. Well, look at that. Why couldn't they just build a regular old building? Why'd they have to have a fancy donkey ass, Capitol building, which costs millions and millions of dollars in upkeep? Why couldn't we have just built a couple of warehouses and put a bunch of seats in it? Why do we have the Truman State Office building, which is a beautiful building, but it's functional. It's dysfunctional because it has this huge 5-story atrium that costs X amount of dollars to heat and cool, which wouldn't cost that money if they built a regular building. And you say, okay, you know why? You know why they do that? Because it ain't their money. They're spending your and my money, and they don't give a rip because the money's there. It's just I still remember that luncheon legislators I went to O'Fallon Chamber. This has been about 3 or 4 years ago when Richard West said that.
How much did the budget double, Brad?
In 7 years, the budget doubled in 7 years. And then when he said, our budget is larger than the state of Illinois. And I thought to myself, whoa, hold on a minute. Illinois.
That's mind-blowing.
Oh, Illinois is the tax and spend state in the country. How in the world can Missouri's budget be bigger than Illinois'? You know what I'm saying? And yet,
yeah, I think it's because so many people drive down to the Kirkpatrick building that you're paying for so much staff to be down there.
well,
And so many people are using the library. That you've got to have a lot of librarians.
John, that's another perfect example. How many times, if you know the Kirkpatrick building, the Secretary of State's office is on the third floor, and they have one of those glass elevators. When you get in the elevator, you can see out all sorts of, and the overlook of the elevator going up to the third floor is the library, which there's never anybody in it. I've never once have I been in the state office building or in the Kirkpatrick building and been in an elevator, and I've probably done it dozens of times through the years going down to take care of business with the Secretary of State. I've never seen one single solitary person in that library. If you put that into the private sector and they said, okay, we've got a building, we've got a store, and there has not been anybody in the store for 2 weeks. Guess what? That store is gone. You close it down, shut it down, cut the losses, and move on, right?
I'm in the middle of a seance with a woman that claimed she worked off of Dunn Road, and I'm getting a sense of something near a rotunda. And she says, tell Brad to be quiet about libraries.
That's my mother.
Oh, is that your mom?
Yes.
I wondered who this woman was.
My mother, who never listened to me once on the radio, who if I drove her car, I always leave the radio on. So that drives me nuts. If I take my car in for service, I get in and I turn the key and I always think, okay, what happened to the radio? Because the radio's always on. You turn the key, the radio comes on.
Yeah.
Okay. My mom, if I drove her car, I didn't do that all the time, but if I drove her car and if I dared leave the radio on, oh my God, would I get a tongue lashing. I drove my car this morning and when I started it up, the radio was on. I don't like the radio. Turn the damn radio off. I hate that radio. Okay, Mom. Isn't it ironic that my mother, who hated the radio, has two sons who are in the radio business? Isn't that bizarre, John?
I feel like a licensed therapist would say, Brad, we're at the end of our 50 minutes. It seems like there's more we'll need to explore about your mother. Okay. Your brother is mentioned in J.C. Corcoran's book, which is my new favorite read.
Did you read that book?
No, I just started. I got it yesterday, and I just started. Actually, I can't imagine sitting down and reading through this whole thing, so I've been skimming it. But it is awesome, man. So it looks like just a ton of wacky stories in here.
You really like it?
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. Are you kidding me? He's talking about Bob Hyland. He talks about getting in fights with Jack Buck and Bob Hyland. Did you know that the radio industry used to be lucrative?
John, here's what you need to do. You need to go on to, I know you're not a Facebook.
I won't, but go ahead.
You need to go on Facebook. You need to go to J.C. Corcoran's Facebook page, and you need to say, John, or you're John. J.C., what's his real name? Is it James? Is it James? Something like that?
It might be. I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe it's John. Maybe it's John Corcoran. J.C., here's what you need to do. You need to go smash Brad's face in, and you and I will both be happy. How's that?
I explained to my kids that this guy right here is the guy that threatened to punch Brad and asked Brad if he had ever heard the sound of a fist hitting his face.
Right.
They looked at me with a mix of horror and delight.
John, do I have the life? I get cease and desist orders from Tracy Ellis, and I get physical threats from J.C. Corcoran. Am I living the life or what?
I got to go posthumously change my mom's radio dial, Brad. I can't stay.
Okay. Bye, John.